Today we end our series, Our Journey Together. As a church, we've been talking about our mission. We have been called to reach generations for Christ. It's the way we articulate that great commission that Jesus gave to His church, to go and make disciples of all nations together. And here at Gateway, we believe as we reach each generation with the good news of Christ, it changes them, not only here and now, but for eternity. And as a church, we follow through with this by making sure we are worshiping together, connecting with each other, serving in the church together, growing in God's Word, and sharing the gospel, the good news of Christ with those around us. Last time we met, we talked about then, what is our vision moving forward? If our mission answers, what do we do? Our vision tells us where we are going. And our last session, we talked about our vision for the island. That as we are salt and light here on Staten Island in year 2025, as we're originally recording this, and in the years ahead, we want to be a house of prayer as a church. We want to be a hospital for healing, and we want to be a helipad for mission, launching out in service to God, being a witness for Him wherever He has placed us. And as we individually ask, Lord, where are you calling me to be distinct for you? Where are you calling me to be a light for you? Likewise, as a church, we want to do the same for our island and for our world. And that's today's session, our last part of our vision aspect of this journey together. As we look forward to not just doing what God has called us to do here on Staten Island, but we are as well for the world. We are for the world. On Sunday's message, we started with these images of a heartbeat. Remember, it's one thing to see a heartbeat on a monitor, and we talked about what that looks like. It's another thing to hear a heartbeat if you go for a checkup and the doctor checks on your heart. It's quite another thing to take that next step and to feel the heartbeat, to be close to someone where you could feel it, like a baby resting on the chest of her dad or his dad or mom. It's an invitation for us to draw near to God and hear, God, what is your heartbeat for the world? I want to feel it and know it and see it in your word as I follow it in my life. And we said this is so important for us because we want to make sure we don't just treat people through the lens of our differences, but to see people not just as curiosities, but as image bearers of God, and how God calls us beyond our comfort zones to love and care for and invest around the world in people that are very different than us. Why? Because the heartbeat of God is for the nations. And there are many ways we could chart this for you biblically and theologically. We could go from Genesis to Revelation and show how from the very beginning God's promise has been to provide for all people. But as a church this past Sunday, we talked specifically in the book of Revelation. A book that shows us what is really going on in the world, what has always gone on, and what will come yet in a time yet to come. And it's a reminder to us of several ways that we are to catch God's heartbeat for all the nations. First, we talked about it in Revelation 5:9, how redemption, how Christ's purchase of His blood was for a global people. In 5:9 of Revelation, we said, you were slain and your blood you purchase for God persons from every tribe and language and people and tongue. See, at the center of heaven's song stands the Lamb. He's crucified, and His blood has been shed for all people, different people. We talked about worship then in Revelation 7, verse 9, where a great multitude gather before God in worship. Once again, the scriptures say from every nation, tribe, people, and language before the Lamb. That redemption is for all people. That the mission and worship of God is for all people. And then the mission, Revelation 14:6, that He had the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth, to every nation, tribe, language, and people. Once again, Revelation revealing for us what is occurring and what will one day happen as well, that all people might hear the good news of God. We then charted for you several other areas in the book of Revelation, however, where this is not met without opposition. That is God's heartbeat for the nations, that all people may know they can be redeemed or have been redeemed, that all people may know that God invites us all to worship Him, that all people may know together that we are a part of proclaiming that gospel, that there is oftentimes counterfeits, like Revelation 13:7 tells us, and that there are oftentimes as well struggles and confusion, like it says in Revelation 11, verse 9, that the world oftentimes, every tongue and tribe and people and nation can be confused and misled because of the spiritual realities at play. And so the invitation for the follower of God is join God in what He is doing for all people. Be a part of His mission because the stakes are high. So Christ has redeemed people from every tongue and tribe and people and nation. Worship before the throne of God, both now and into eternity, is from every tongue and tribe and people and nation. The mission of God to share the eternal gospel goes out for every tongue and tribe and people and nation, despite opposition, despite evil at work, despite hatred and vitriol. We're called to share that good news because ultimately the hope for the follower of God is that all the nations will be healed and glorified forever. Restoration is that final hope. Revelation 21 and 22 talk about it. In Revelation 22, it talks about this great city that will come down, this new heaven and this new earth, this new Jerusalem, and that the nations will walk by the light of that city, and that the leaves of the tree of life there will be for the healing of the nations. That's what it says in the text. In Revelation 21, verses 24 through 26, it says that all the different kings and nations will bring their gifts. In other words, the uniqueness and diversity of the people of this world is something that we will reflect in our resurrection bodies for eternity. That God has an eclectic sense and love for people. He loves people that look different than us, that are from different areas of this world, that have lived in different time periods. God has an eclectic love for all people, and as His followers, we need to feel that heartbeat as well. We need to get our hearts in sync with God's, much like a young baby could have their heartbeat get in sync with the parent whose chest they are laying on. So too in our lives, we are called to feel and hear and see God's heartbeat for the nations and for it to inspire us. It's so important for us as a church to not just look inward toward ourselves or not even just towards our community, but how God is calling us to be a part of what He's doing around the world. Because ultimately, that's where the story ends. Every tongue, tribe, people, and nation worshiping and living in a new heaven and a new earth with Christ forever. This is our hope. So I wanted you as a church, I wanted us as a church to see how close this is to God's heartbeat, to feel it. But then as well in our lives, we want to ask, how do I begin syncing my heart with God's? How do I ask God to reveal in my life those areas where there might be a misunderstanding or prejudice or lack of concern for those that are different than me, both near and far? And I gave you a couple practical ways to do it. First of all, we want to pursue and pray. In other words, pursue God's heart for the nations and pray for the nations. In other words, ask ourselves, Lord, help me to view the world not just through what I've been taught or what the news tells me to think about, and not to just look at nations as these not just a group of political entities and not individuals that are a part of it. God, help me to see people the way you see them, to pursue your heart, and to pray for the nations. If you're like me, it's not hard for me to pray for myself, for those I love, for our church, for those I see. It's a much greater challenge to call myself and remind myself to pursue knowledge of and pray for people around the world. A great tool that I use that I recommended to you is Operation World. You can get a thick book of it, but as well there is an app. You can have it right on your phone. And there are several countries, primarily with partners that we have in our missions work around the world that I have highlighted. You can literally look up any country and it'll give you a snapshot summary of where they are, what the population is, but more importantly, ways that we could pray that the gospel will go forth. Download that app, Operation World, and start pursuing and praying for the nations. And then the second we talked about is as well partnering and participating. Partnering and participating. Partnering through our giving, through our knowledge of going to our website, gcny.org, and seeing our missions partners, we call them, around the world, our global and local missions partners, knowing that when we give and invest and pray for them, we're partnering in God's work around the world. And then lastly, participating. I believe a wonderful way, if you are physically able, is to take some attempt of a short-term trip, to expose yourself to what God's doing around the world. We as a church do that all the time. And each and every year we're praying to offer more and more opportunities for you to go on short trips where you see how God works around the world so that it might inspire you to be about His mission, His heartbeat for all nations. So be praying about it. Be praying about if God is calling you to do it. And not just short term. I believe in the years ahead, God is going to call full-time men and women, young people from our church into international missions work as we catch and feel God's heartbeat for the nations. This past Sunday as well, I showed a clip from a time that I had in Argentina in worship with people that I did not speak their language, but however, are praising and worshiping the same God. And for me, it was just a little snapshot, a glimpse of this heavenly worship to come. And I want you to imagine with me that cacophony of voices singing and praising God in their own language and tongues forever and ever and ever. And we can experience it now in part, what one day we will experience for eternity. So Gateway Church, let's have a vision for our island and for our world.